Hi there, welcome back then. Let's move on to the next stage. We've prepped our two major assets, our memory in this separate composition, which was a combination of two layers and an adjustment layer. And then we've got this final composition here, which has got the pre-comp of that same memory, the one we've been working on here. And we've got our green screen shot prepped and ready. So I'm just going to make sure the eye line of our actress is about right. We've slowed it down, we've time reversed it. It looks about as we would expect. I might just scale if I go too far. Here in a smudge more so we can just, I don't want a time remap, I just want to see a bit more of her face there. I might just push her to the right a little bit just to make it a bit more compositionally interesting. So I'm just pressing the right key, look, and I'm just making sure this is roughly in position first, like so. Okay. So let's see what we can do with this now. So first off, I'm going to create a new solid. I'm going to create a solid, and I've prepped these values. Look, I've gone for this 8806B, which is this grey orange, pale grey orange, and I'm going with this kind of sepia-like theme to it. So I've dragged that to the bottom. So that's going to be my background solid, my background colour to the whole composition. I'm then going to multiply our memory on top of that. So let's multiply it down. Just use the multiply blending mode. So if we turn the green screen off, you can see it's multiplied down. Then what we're going to use our green screen alpha channel where our protagonist begins and ends as a reference point. So I'm just going to move it left slightly so her arm is fully, not making a hard edge here. That's made me feel a bit better. I'm just going to stretch this keyframe out there. There we go. Yeah, so I just didn't want a hard edge on her arm there. So we've multiplied the memory onto this background footage, this background color. I'm now going to use the green screen as a cookie cutter to cut a hole out of our memory. So to do that, I've made sure that the green screen is directly above the memory composition. If you can't see this track matte column, make sure both columns are toggled on down here. I'm going to change the track matte to alpha matte. So now look, we've got this kind of silhouetted thing going on here. Now I'm going to make sure that my memory is aligned a little bit more interestingly. So to do that, I'm not going to go into my memory comp. I'm going to assume that's correct. I'm just going to move things into a more interesting position, and I might have to scale things up a bit. So let's press S for scale. And then let's move this back up there, maybe. Like so. I might just scale a tiny bit more. That just makes a bigger thing of the kind of wind turbine element to it. I'm also tempted to make that wind turbine a little bit smaller in this comp also. So it's not too oversized. Let's push that back down here. And that will of course update this shot. And there we go. The other thing that I want it to give it a bit of a magical memory, and you can see it's this back and forth. I'm going to go to the memory here, and I want to create like a sunlight just here, like a kind of sunset punctuating things. So to do that, I'm going to go layer new solid. I'm going to create like a bright orangey sunshine like so. I'm just color picking from the orangey light we can see in the shot. There we go. I'm going to get an ellipse tool. And on that same layer, I'm just going to keep my finger on shift to create a perfect ellipse. Like that. And I'm going to double click the mask itself. So I'm not moving the layer, but I'm double clicking the mask. And I'm just going to put it on the horizon there. I'm going to change my blending mode to add. So it's adding its values. Then I'm going to press F for feather. I'm going to feather up that mask just to give me this kind of warm, kind of sun-like kind of view. And then I could Control D to duplicate that, press F to feather a bit more and spread that out just to get a bigger gradation. Then I could come back to my first one, go to T for transparency and just dial that in a bit. Go to T on this one and just dial that back a bit. And there we go, we've got like a fake sun, and then we can come back to final. And that just gives it a bit more of a magical, kind of haunting, summer of a mind kind of quality about it. There we go. And it would also be nice just to kind of do a bit of a fake camera move, possibly. Just tweak that sunshine up a bit just to give it a bit more intensity. A fake camera move. So what we could do is move some of these layers left and right. So what I'm going to do is select all these layers, press P and put a stopwatch on all of them. Because they're selected, it'll mark all of them. I'm going to go to the right. And I'm just going to push it like so to the right. So we just get this suggestion of a camera movement. And that'll be quite nice in just giving that thing a sense of inertia, a sense of longing and kind of retrospection. Yeah, it's passing memory going through her mind. Okay, so we're getting there. We've got the beginnings of this, but it's still a fairly long way off. Now, what I'd like to do now is try and bring some of this back over the top of this. So we're just seeing the internal memory, but around the edges, we're starting to perceive the kind of person coming back at the edges to give it a bit of three-dimensionality. So to do that, I'm going to duplicate by Control D the green screen footage. So we've got another version of it. And then what I'm going to do is multiply this down over the top, like so. And you'll see that we've now got the two working in harmony. Yeah, memory, not memory coming through. So that's kind of working. We're getting somewhere close, look. But it would be great if we could just have it around the edges. So to do that, we'll call this edge. What I'm going to do is Control D again, because we know this has got a mask in it. Okay. I'm going to call this edge matte. And we're going to use the alpha channel sitting within this duplicate, and we're going to go into the key light and tweak this a bit. So I'm going to view the screen matte. I'm going to turn everything else back to, on this one, back to normal. There we go. So it's the matte that we're creating is going to be a matte for this new edge video, which is her over the top of herself again. I'm going to create an edge matte that tells it only to be switched on around the edge. So what I'm going to do is go into the screen matte options, and I'm going to shrink the edge in loads, like so. And then we're going to soften that so it's kind of very soft. And what we've got is black and white values, basically, because I'm leaving it on screen matte. I'm not using the final result view of this. And what I can do then is go back to the video footage that we multiplied over the top of everything else. And you can see there's a track matte option. This time we could use the matte above it that we've just created as a luma matte. And what it does is this, look. But it's doing it the wrong way around. So let's try using a luma matte inverted. And what we're seeing now, look, is this sense of the memory is more pronounced in the center, but not around the edges. So let's just go into the screen matte options. Let's get into the edge matte, sorry. Let's get more shrinkage. So we've got more fur coming back over the top. We could soften that a bit more. Like so. There we are. I believe we've got a little bit of bubbling happening, so let's look at what this screen mat looks like on its own. We've got a bit of bubbling here, so let's just punch the white a little bit more, and that maybe doesn't bubble as much. Let's turn its eye off. There we go. We've got the beginnings of our internal memory. All right, so we're really just using a repetition of this green screen footage. We've now used it once to cut a hole out of the memory layer. We've used it again to put it over the top of itself, and then we've duplicated that once more to create a mat from it, which only defines the edges, like so. And I want this top just to be more hair and eye, so I want to bring that in, and this edge mat is just being too uniform around the edge look and leaving this hole at the top, and my eye gets drawn off the top. So what I'd like to do is view it as a mat, and what I'd like to do is just bring in a bit more black at the top, because we know black is going to do the opposite of what we want it to do. So how about let's try and layer new solid. Let's try making this pure black. Let's do a circle like so. So I'm saying this is the bit I want to come in. Let's feather that. Like that. But the problem is these are two separate layers. So if I want them to act as one, I need to pre-compose them. So let's pre-compose. We'll call this edge mat, like so. You'll notice now that we've got more of the top of her head coming in as well, like so. And this memory plays through, and I think I've come too far with that mat, so let's double click on edge mat. Let's perhaps get this black solid, and let's just bring it up a tiny bit, and this will update our final one. Like that. And we can continue to play with this until it looks about right. Perhaps my memory is still a little bit pronounced, and I think my windmill's still far too large. So I'm going to come to my memory, come to my turbine. I'm tempted to scale it once more and put it back into shot. You'll notice it floats up because obviously I've just moved its position. So that was a foolish thing to do. So let's just redo its whole position. So let's press P. Let's move its starting position downwards into the correct position. Say here, and let's just toggle that stopwatch off. I'm going to remark it there, come along, and instead of just keyframing, in fact I could just tell it to follow, parent the other things. Let's parent it to the background, and it doesn't seem to want to pair, and that's because I'm parenting the positional value. I can just parent the whole layer by dragging it, this quick whip, to the background and then it moves with it, look. And that saves me having to worry about scaling it in the future and it not following. So there we go. Now I've got a more pronounced effect. This is coming together. So we've got our background, which is our color. We've got our memory, which is the internal memory, look. We've got, and you can see how our edge mat now just comes too far. Let's switch our memory off, come back to our edge mat. And I think what I might do is just bring this up slightly. Let that up down there. Put our memory back on. And we can just play around with this. It maybe needs to be a bit more asymmetrical, possibly. Yeah, that's coming together well. And we can carry on tweaking these because we're using this pre-compositional method. Right, so we have our first combination. So what we're going to do next is we're going to start to focus on kind of building a look and some lens aberrations to this to really build up the effect. So that's what we're going to be doing in the next section. Thank you very much.